Thokozani, I am Poverty and I welcome you to my channel. And today I'll be talking about prophetic versus Sangoma versus other things, And yet again, it's one of those topics that often confuse a lot of people. So I hope today, even if I do not fit everything into this video, but I'll like I always promise, I'll make another one, should allow. So I'll start with today's, few minutes and see how far we get with the topic. So we need to understand that with all the spiritual life, this calling, this gift, we are actually one big family tree, and the only thing that differs amongst all of this is the different routes we take, but the paths, or rather the journeys, are similar. When it comes to ubu prophet Sangoma, the always confusion is someone goes for a consultation and they are being told ukuthi wena no, you have a gift but it's pure sako sisebu prophet and they are being told ukuthi sometimes go find a living church or get a piga or get a duku or get all these things, and at most times that can be confusing. That is why you find some people, they see their calling, they follow through, but they leave things hanging because there is no proper guidance, and it's like you left to see things for yourself. With proper guiding, everything can basically make sense, But before I continue, one thing I'd like to highlight is that nothing can happen, or rather, make sense for you if now you're not putting the effort to meet ilos like halfway and do things as how they say, because you can patla as much as you can, but you need to put in effort. It's like simple things like how the law of attraction works. You say you want to begin your journey, but you are still carrying on with your life as normal, but but some things just need to have balance. So we need to understand those things, and know that we need to put in the work, Nati, and meet our Lucy halfway. I hope I'm making sense. So when it comes to Obo Prophet in Sangoma, these are the same destinations type of journeys, ne? They are same destination but different types of journeys, and often that is what tends to confuse most people, because you are being told that I have a gift but I yobungoma, and that is why 80% of the time you find Gucci abantu that are being told that have this particular gift end up batwasa, when actually they being told ukuthi ungatwasi, or rather your calling does not want you to uye through the route of twasa, right? Yes, we know twasa, but is a form of initiation, or rather a training, but in this instance I'd like to focus on ukuya epehlweni, So most people tend to find the waiting process, especially when it comes to into this prophet, it's always time consuming, and you feel as if there's nothing moving, you don't know what to do, and sometimes it actually doesn't make sense. So obo Sangoma bunama practicals abaningi, ne, has a lot of practicals but less theory. Uyazi ukuthi ngine-calling nini ngizohamba ngiyothwasa and I need to come back and work blah blah blah. But when it comes to prophets, there's so much theory and less practicals. Practicals manifest out of theory. It's like every module you go through with prophets in our practicals wakhona. So it's one of those spiritual callings or other journeys that are very demanding and very strict, and if you are not mentally stable, or rather mentally independent, sometimes it drains you and you find yourself dangling out of control, not knowing what you're doing, So it's very important to be centered, especially when it comes to spiritual things, so you avoid taking the route of taking the shortcut, because normally people just go ebungomeni because one will tell you have a gift, but sizoyilungisa lento le maso uthwasa sizovusa ngapha sivuse ngapha, and to only understand good sometimes uyathwasa and then ube ebungomeni, but there's still that part you need to complete. So it's one of those things. So sometimes you find a good thing. The good thing about a prophet, you don't have to go through the 9 yards. You just need to focus on your books. With us, there's so much practicals. This is what's going to happen. So I think that's the problem, is when you uber lazy spiritually, you find isn't this lazy, and you feel, and the prophet is very strict. prophecy is very isolating. It isolates you from people. It isolates you from life. It wants you to live a divine life. Like, unlike yobungoma, we still have a freedom to love, a freedom to have a life post, your gifts. So I think it's one of those things. And if you are watching this and it's stressful, yes, it is stressful. I don't want to lie to you. It is stressful. And boy, am I grateful, that that department was not mine. So another thing that we need to understand between prophecy and Sangoma, these people are both seers. They foresee, they foretell, sometimes they predict, they gain insight, and it depends how they translate the messages. So those are the similarities. So to siyaboniswa, siyabona, we are being received messages to translate, or it depends, because sometimes even a Sangoma can be a seer, a translator of things, nalona when prophet, but how the messages are translated can be differing from gift to gift. So a Sangoma also uses, gifts for spiritual sight. I gift yako, that's what you use for spiritual sight, and you connect more with idlozi. That is why they use the term loosely as a traditional healer. I don't like the term, but it's there. What can we do? It's traditional healer because of the skins we wear, the process we go through, everything it's so traditional. That is why we being labeled as traditional healer. And the good thing to this is that there is a calling to this part, yobungoma. But when it comes to our prophet, you are like the middle person within the middle people, because it's so demanding of you, because you need to basically dig deep within yourself to actually find this. Because amongst all of these things, we have spiritual healers and faith healers, and we have what I call traditional healers. Because spiritual healers, that is why even I always say ebungomeni, or rather when it comes to spirituality, we can be looking the same, but how we work is differently. So that is what I'm about to go into. We have spiritual healers, we have faith healers, and we have traditional healers. Spiritual healers involved a transfer of energies from healer to whoever or whatever they want to heal. That can be in a form of seeing things in energies and all these kind of things, or being able to, because basically spiritual healers are able to see the problem, and diagnose and all these other things. So all of this energy is what basically we use, as spiritual healers. So there are people that are spiritual healers, just spiritual healers. You find that everything they do is spiritually. They don't touch anything. They don't use anything. They just, they spiritual healers. And healing, remember, is many ways. It can be me connecting with your ancestors. It can be me connecting with you spiritually, delivering solutions to the answers to your problems. Then we have a faith healer. Those are people that practice, or rather use prayer and all that. They lay hands on people. They able to use amanzi, pray over water and give you water and heal you with that. They're able to pray over whatever sickness, or rather you're going through, and give lesos intolezo, give you light basically when it comes to that. There's a lot of interceding that's going on there. There's a lot of, interceding using candles and all of that. Those are people that we call faith healers, because their faith is umdali and them. So it's not as if a spiritual healer akasebenzisi umdali. We all start with the creator, and then idloti, our people, and then kuzatina, the gods. The living gods. So it's just about understanding where you fall into the spaces of healing. So our prophets all the time tend to fall in the space of faith healing. That is why Uza would say sometimes your gift normally directs you in the line of you finding what they call a living church, or rather a spiritual background, because sometimes it's not necessarily even about finding church, but about where your guide, or rather your guide or idlozilako that has give you that prophetic gift that is leading you into that space, because themselves were in that particular space. So sometimes you find a good, they say go find a living church. You're like, church, I'm not even there. It is up to you what you do, but that is why it works better, because there is a lot of interceding, there is a lot of prayer. And sometimes the reason why you're being asked to go find a living African church, don't don't fall trap, because but finding a church that is like invested in African spirituality, it will help you go a long way, because lapho umoya wakho is going to be revived, because remember why we say find a church. No one can touch you, no one can train you. Your ancestors are training you. When you just need to go pour the petrol that is being in that atmosphere of spirit, so that's why you're being directed into that living space. And then we have a traditional healer, whereby they they use traditional ways, traditional methods that have been passed on from one generation to the next, or rather have been imported. That is why with all these things I've said, but they don't use muti, and they just heal. They use water, and they can. It's spiritual healing. But then there are traditional people that use imiti, or do this. That is a traditional healer. That person uses traditional methods to heal you. They know how to put together and heal you. So I think that's a topic for another day, but it's very interesting, because I think with me saying it now, it makes more sense than I would actually explain it, to someone else. So I think I've also gained some knowledge from this. So thank you. Thank you. So it's that. So a traditional healer will use traditional ways, performance of rituals, and all these other elements. So that is why we do these things and are in this space, because that is why I always say you find ukuthi Sangoma is bathasile, kunesangoma esihlola ngikhandela, kunesangoma esihlola just with a Sangoma just read your hand. It's Sangoma that that is why I'm saying we fall into different spaces, but we are under the same umbrella. It's how our gifts manifest that sets us apart and makes us differently, and all these other things. So you find that the main thing that confuses a lot of people is that is tunya. They say is tunya and all these other things. Does a prophet and as Sangoma have is tunya? It's tunya. We need to know that it's a messenger. Is a messenger yako. It's your special guide that is there. That is in the middle of communication between you and your ancestors. It's tunya. It is what works when you are in that healing space, or rather the healing energies. It is who, or rather, mediates basically the healing space, or rather the transfer of healing energies through or between amadlozi etu. So when we say istunya, we mean that a messenger. So how istunya sako manifests itself is differently, but every single person has a stunya. Astunya has a healing guide. Let me for me, I call istunya a healing guide, because a healing guide is normally in between, because sometimes you find good. There is your ancestors, and then there's your healing guide. So your healing guide is that one that always comes to you with all these emotions, and it's always part of izinto zagini. So it's not far-fetched, but I think when it comes to Tunya, I'll do a video for that, should I get the time and Ilozi allows for me to dissect deeper. But I will just touch base, because why I'm passing on this part is Tunya. There is a piga and all these things we wear. Nati Sangoma, we have that. Able perfect to wear that thing, but that is piga and all that are not necessarily associated with religion. It's piga is its garment, and all impura and whatever you call these things are garments that are there, because all these things we have amabai, shoba, amatambo, whatever we have, those are stationary setu, our study guides, and all these things we've collected throughout our journeys. Those are our equipment for us being healers. So things like is tunya and things like is piga and all these things. Remember, shoulders, it's where we carry our power. It's where we carry all our energy. It's where we carry in respect, reverence, and all these things. So the covering of the shoulders plays an important role, because that is why guna magarments lao eswabiza guti piga, and the color of his piga sako determines the type, or rather energy, that your guide has. So it's tunya normally is the user identifies with is piga sako and all these other things, and that is why you wear that on your shoulders. And sometimes you find Gucci's piga sako has certain things, because trust me, even nurses or whatever, they wear again, epaulets or whatever, I don't know if I'm using the right word, on their shoulders. Kings, royalty, they put nice garments, flowing garments on their shoulders. I'm trying to make you understand that this is not religious. This is not about being yes, that one. It's not even about that, but it's about isithunywa sakho. So we all have our guides that are with us. So we use that because this is yobungoma. All this I have is my dlozi, my Sangoma space. But when it comes to isithunywa sam, I wear that because normally isithunywa it's when I'm going to emanzini and all these other things, because isithunywa normally uses a lot of prayerful energy, a lot of spiritual energy, a lot of, all this type of energy. So that's how because it's ziyahluka nangendlela eziba ngayo. So you find ukuthi kuzoba idlozi lakho besebenzisa isiphika esiso, and then now uzosebenzisa isiphika so maybe sakho sinesiphambano, esakho sinani, and you need these other things, because remember ebudlozini there is that dlozi esebenza ngalo, that is the gift that we use, but there's also a time. So rather it's Tunya. It's like that middle person between your creator and you, that sacred space between your creator, because isithunywa sakho can be in the middle of your ancestors and you, and I have the picture in my mind, but it's just that I don't know how to explain it. So it's Tunya, it's liberal. It's not, because it brings you messages from Umdal, it brings you messages from idlozi lakho, and all these other things. So isithunywa is just doing the work. In word, that is a messenger, spiritual messenger. That is your guide, your healing guide. So that is why we have all these things that we wear, and we have these dukes and all these things, because a symbol of covering your head and covering your shoulders, it's a symbol of respect, spiritual symbol of respect. So that is why you need to have is pigaleso or whatever. So it's not necessary, you can even call it a cape. We have capes, it's not that deep. We have capes. So if you're under an African church and that is good for you, I have that, but I don't church. So I'm trying to make you understand that it's not necessarily religiously based. When you have this type of thing, you automatically or Zion or whatever. It's about you. So wherever your spirit, or rather your prophetic spirit, leads you, you need to go there and find yourself, because it is a perfect. I'm not very much in tune when it comes to that department, because it's very stressful, but it's a part that needs you to undertake, because trust me, every gift we have has been appointed by idlozi lady. So the minute you connect idlozi lakho and you're in the space, a charismatic space that they want you to be in, then you will work better. So if your prophetic spirit wants you to be in a charismatic African whatever church, because church is a broad term. We think church, no, you can be in a space where you are in where your spirit is revived. Go there. Go there. Do that and all these other things. That is why you even find Guma African church, go and all these other things, because there is that side that needs to be vavavoomed and all these other things. So that is those things that we need to understand. So when it comes to using this prophetic, don't feel conflicted and lost. It's the same thing, you and I, but it's just how mina ngiyothatha isikhwama sami and all these other things, but when you don't. And even with how we dress and all these other things, because bona they are so deep in laying of hands and praying and all these other things. You need to live a life. And so that's why every time you find even umuntu that we call them prophet, they're always isolated, they're always covered, they're always humble, they always they want to pray, they want to do that, unlike us, we do all these things, we even allowed to have a life post our, so don't feel scared because indlela yakho says kuwe iya espirifitin, and then you find yourself uyathwasa. Understand your journey for yourself, because sometimes you even find there is nothing in my biggest advice out of all this, if you know that you have a prophetic gift or a prophetic gift or whatever you want to call it, go and initiate your gift. Get a cleansing. Rule number 1, that's a start. Get a cleansing so you can connect with your inner, or rather your spiritual higher self. So get a cleansing and ukhuphule lo moya ongaphakathi kuwe. If possible, moya emanzini, cela umuntu like iye ozokusiza uye emanzini uhlanjulule ugeze, or whatever the case might be. And then ama-garments lawa waphuphayo, should you have uziphuphe lezi zinto uzoya kuphi uzoya emanzini and whatnot. Like I'm going too far. I'm speaking right now, I'm not making sense because I'm looking at this with my spiritual mind, so I'm already seeing it. So I think but I have insight, at least I have an idea of what it takes to be ulabo bantu ulabo, all those prophetic people. So you find a good say she has a yellow speaker, my prophet nami ngumpo, I have a yellow speaker, but kuhluka kuphi in our also yena akanabo ubungoma, unales prophet sakhe. So that is why ama-garments wakhe anje, and etc. So don't feel boxed. Gifts manifest differently, and learning shoyo, it's just an outline of basically what happened within everything. So don't feel boxed. Like, don't be lazy to understand your gift for yourself, and don't be afraid to take that first leap of communicating needles lako for yourself, so that you understand your gift better. So if you're gonna be lazy and you feel that nothing is going anywhere, but you're consulting every month, you have a gift. What are you? Ask the question, what are you doing? I mean, the signs are there, everything is there. What are you doing? That's the big question. What are you doing? Get up from the chair and do something. This is the spiritual life we're talking about. This is your spiritual life. So it does not matter what ubizoge department. Uyinyanga, uyisangoma, umponofirtim, uyini. It does not matter. Ubizoge department. Question is, what are you doing? Because akfani thina ebungomeni vusana ngempama nguthamba uyothwasa, but they give you that long rope to hang yourself. By the time you find that I've been wasting time, say go late. So my advice to you is that do something productive for your spiritual self. If you cannot, find a spiritual mentor, someone that can help you guide. I would say you want uktwasa or anything like that, but someone that can guide you. Go in that space, or rather ask your people to help guidance. And now do you take time to invest in your spiritual self, or investor or there are things you need to go the extra mile for you to merge. Nothing comes on a silver plate. It will never say, look over there, that is what I need you to do. No, you need to put in the work. So I don't know if I made sense, but don't confuse yourself. So in the